Hello. It is 6:07, and I'd like to call to order the December 5th meeting of the City of Sacramento Public Parks and Recreation and Intergenerational Services Commission meeting. We will start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do. Commissioner Hargrove, would you like to lead?
Thank you. Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that brings us to item 1 of our meeting, which are presentations on the public on matters that are not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of this commission. We are prohibited, as a reminder, by state law from discussing or taking any action on items that are brought up under item 1, but it provides an important opportunity for a public forum, so we welcome all comments take place. We do ask anyone wishing to address the commission on this or any other item in this evening to please fill out a request to speak card. I have several here. And we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, please.
I'm going to jump in and do roll call.
Thank you. I always forget that.
Vice Chair Rosas, Commissioner Ahmad,
Present.
Commissioner Galvan, alternate member Schatzel,
Present.
Commissioner Ramsey, Commissioner Hargrove.
Present.
We have a quorum. Chair Jans.
Present.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, so now we'll jump to item 1. I don't have to repeat all of that, do I? We'll go ahead and get started.
You do not.
Huh? All right. We have okay. Full disclosure, I'm terrible at names, and I'm also having trouble with my eyes lately, so, but it looks like we have Iman Potter, is that right? Are they present? Looks like I-M-A-A-N. Yeah, is it? Okay. Do you want me to, I can go to someone, do you want me to wait? Okay, I'll come back. Amin Potter.
I'm Amin's dad, Cody.
What am I supposed to say?
And Amin, you want to tell him what you do here in West Sac with our soccer team? Wolfpack. About 10, 11 players, 12 players that are
No, 11.
11 players that play competitive soccer here in West Sac, right? Boys that are born, some of them over here as well, in 2014. And so we're one of many teams that are playing in the comp, part of West Sac Soccer Club. Nice jersey on right here. Some of my other players as well. Bridge there. And I mean, what are you here for today?
What do you mean?
You're wanting improved soccer facilities for Bright.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause I got hurt.
Say that again?
Javier was playing practice and he fell up and hurt his.
Yeah, we have our goalie, who's Javier, goes to Westfield. And
No, not anymore. He goes to Lighthouse.
now he goes to Lighthouse. And he fell in a pothole during practice at Bright. Is that right?
And hurt. Right here.
He sprained his ankle.
No, it just hurt.
It hurt, yeah. It hurt him pretty badly. So that's part of what Amin wanted to talk about, I think. Getting our fields improved to a point where his teammates aren't getting hurt playing on them just because of potholes. They'll kick each other plenty, but preferably the fields won't get hurt from the fields. Is that right, I mean?
Yes.
Okay. I'll say thank you.
Thank you. Wait, one more thing.
Okay. Thanks.
Comment card in? Would you like to speak now? Sure. And I actually have 2 for Cody. Is that a mistake?
There's only one of me.
Okay.
Yeah, so my name's Cody, Cody Potter. I've been in West Sac since 2003, and I've got 4 kids who play soccer at in the West Sac Soccer Club, ranging from the 4-year-old over there who's crying to 15-year-old who plays competitively and under 19 age group. And what I wanted to speak about, I've got notes on. So we're joining a winter league right now with other teams for the 2014 age, and we have to have a field that we're supposed to play at for home field, but we have a difficult time doing that because the limitations that we have in the city here during the winter in particular. So that's something that I wanted to raise a concern about. We'll be playing at a lot of other clubs in the Sacramento metro area, but I don't think we'll be able to do home games because of not having facilities available. We don't have a lot of fields that have lights to play on. We're restricted to just Bright Field right now. It's the only place that we can play soccer at in the winter once the time changes, because it gets dark so early. So we'd love it for the city to be having a place where our kids can play at night through just year round, ideally. There's a lot of other places that we go that have huge facilities where they have tournaments that range in age from 19-year-olds down to 10-year-olds. And they've got teams that come from all over the place. And I would love one day for us to be able to support something like that here in West Sac as well. It'd be good for funding our club, for growing our sport here, and I think in addition to kind of helping be a boom for the local businesses that are in West Sacramento, because you draw just a lot of people to these big tournaments that we have. So a lot of the places where we have these tournaments, they've got turf fields that you can play year round on. They've got lights, they play into the night. And so that's something I'd love for us to work on. The last issue that I think is important is being able to work out better use of the school district facilities, somehow between the city and the school district. We go to a lot of places where we play soccer games at schools throughout the area, and we don't have that opportunity necessarily here in Sacramento. So that's something we'd love for, I think, for the city and the school district to be able to work together to help give us more access to fields that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a Yassine Potter too? Yes, also. Hossein, you want to talk?
Hello, commissioners. Thank you for listening to me tonight. My name is Hussein. I'm a coach with West Sac Soccer Club. First thing I wanted to just bring up is I know the October meeting was canceled. I don't know if the intention was to post that on the website, but it wasn't. I heard through one of your members that it was canceled, and that's how I knew not to come. But I just want to urge that if you cancel it, please post it on the website so that people know, because that wasn't, the city council meeting was canceled the next day, but it was posted on the website, but this meeting, it wasn't posted. So I don't know how many people tried to show up to that October meeting. I don't want to be gloomy. I know people come often to these meetings to complain. I wanted to thank just the city and the Parks Rec Commission, Aaron Rivas and Chris Furshak from helping us with our fundraiser in August. They waived the permit fees, and we were able to raise $11,000 in that fundraiser for the club. I also wanted to thank Jason Papulo. Him and his crew did a lot of work on the fields earlier in the fall, and then we had a container that was delivered to Summerfield for our comp program, and he was there. He helped receive it. He helped prepare the ground, and that was great because now we have a shed there where we can store equipment. The third point I would like to talk about is the Bright Park development. I haven't heard much about it since, I think, the August meeting. I just want to remind everyone that there were supposed to be 2 to 3 community outreach meetings with the developer and the city, which were supposed to happen in August, September, and I haven't heard anything about them yet. The reason I bring that up is because I'm actually from Davis. I've been coaching with the club since 2016, but right in my neighborhood on Mace, they redid Mace Boulevard, and it was a $3.2 million project. And after they did the project, there was a big public outcry because the design was horrible. And they decided that they would redo the design. They've just finished it. But during the meetings in the public outcry, one of the commissioners asked what kind of data was collected, what kind of analysis was done to decide on that design. And the chief engineer said it wasn't a data-driven project. So my question is, at what point do you have to decide that a $3 million or a $50 million project should be informed by some data and some analysis? And the reason I bring that up is I know that the intention right now is to try to keep the same level of services at the park, basically to replace one for one what's there. I would just argue that in considering the design considerations, to bring all the stakeholders. You know, I don't care if it's baseball kids or softball kids or football kids or soccer kids. They're all kids, right? They all want to have their sports, and they all want to play their sports. I would think you'd want to be informed about what the numbers are of actual demand for those sports in the city, right? That's probably an important number. And I've heard things like 10 years ago, a survey was done that indicated volleyball was number one, and then soccer. I know Riverbank recently did a survey, the school, and their top 2 were esports and then soccer. But bottom line is I'm just trying to say that whatever decisions are made, please, I would hope that they're transparent, that all of the stakeholders are brought together, and that we actually have discussions, and it happens soon, because this project is supposed to break ground next fall. And in September, we were supposed to have 2 or 3 meetings, and they haven't taken place. So as far as soccer is concerned, I think that the recognition from Parks and Recs is that we don't really cause trouble. We're here to help. We're here to be useful, and we're amenable to all the other groups. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I know we're not supposed to discuss these items, but I do know that staff can answer questions of if there's any stakeholder meetings upcoming.
I had prepared information for my report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Imam Potter, do you want to speak, or you want to Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Not sure if there's like a specific way to talk or anything. I
No.
don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very happy that you're changing the way Bright is, the grounds and everything. But I'm a bit concerned about where all the teams are going to be practicing and stuff while they're doing it. I don't know. I
Thank you for that. I know it took courage. Nancy Salazar?
So I'm Nancy Salazar. I am a parent with the Wolfpack team. My son, Leonardo Salazar, is first year playing comp with them, and I'm excited to be a little bit more part of Westac and playing with, like, having him play year round versus just a season. So my concern is right now, like she just mentioned, like once practice, Bright Park is getting remodeled, where would the kids be able to go practice without no lights in any other parks? I get off till 5. By the time I get home, it's already dark and there's no light for the kids to go somewhere else and practice. That just right now for the meantime. I do like that he stays busy, stays out of trouble, keeps on focused in school, focused at practice. His life right now is honestly soccer at home, soccer at school, soccer after school. It's just soccer. So he wants to one day be someone like famous in soccer, and to start, this is where we start. We start in these little areas, right? And to be able to get there, we need not only my son, but many other kids in Westac to have this availability to play, practice somewhere where the field isn't as like, because I go with them to practice and everything, and I've run with them. I've seen them. They trip, they fall over the potholes we have everywhere in Bright Park, unfortunately. Did you want to add anything to there? But yeah, so like, if there's anything, like we can do to hopefully get these parks a little bit more situated, more better, it would be a nice thing for all these kids in Westac to have and enjoy, because we love Westac, and I know that these kids will get somewhere far someday, and this is where we all start. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gabriel Gonzalez? No? Gabriel declined. Teresa Garcia? Are we declining that as well, or they're not present? Declining? Confirmed declining? Yes? Okay. And then, forgive me, but just Rhonda? Yeah. I think I recognize you. I think that's what it helped. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was working, so I look like hell. It's so good to see these kids up here speaking, and even the ones that don't want to speak. I just want to point something out. There's been a lot of inequity in Bright. I know that there's some movement towards bringing equity, and I appreciate that, and I know that we got the master plan. Matthew, thank you for supporting that and getting it all in one phase. But I just want to point something out. You've got Heritage Oaks Park that has happened way after, way after Bright Park. And I see, workshop, July, workshop, September. I see the outreach. I see all kinds of information about Heritage Oaks Park. And we're still waiting for workshops for Bright Park. And all of these questions will be answered when we get those workshops. And I've reached out a number of times, and we're waiting, maybe December, maybe this, maybe that. We have to get this going. Like, Bright Park has to be a priority. It's way, it's just not okay for all these other parks to get developed and after the fact, and then get built and completed before Bright Park. That is just a horrible precedence. Bright Park is your biggest park. It's needs a lot of work. You have all of these kids that use that park, and we grew up with gang injunction, all those things. We have kids that want to participate, want to be involved in sports, and they have been neglected. Okay, I'm just going to sound like a broken record. Every time I see another park in West Sacramento have a workshop, it quite honestly, it just pisses me off, because Bright Park master plan has been in the works literally for decades, and it's time to put Bright Park first. Stop doing all these other parks that have come decades after the fact and put Bright Park first. We need workshops for these kids to be able to give the input about what their concerns are. I mean, that is very brave for them to come up here and speak. I mean, and that just shows you the desperation, doesn't it? You know, that these kids feel compelled that they have to come up here and speak because their park has been neglected for so long. Bright Park has to be a priority. I want to see workshops. I'm offering my building as soon as I get my permitting and inspections done, hopefully January, hopefully December. And I will offer my building to hold those workshops. No charge. Come and have these workshops for these kids. Let's make Bright Park a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we stated earlier, we unfortunately can't comment by law, but we do appreciate everyone who does take the time to come to these meetings and provide their input. We do hear you, and we will discuss some of the things, I believe, a little bit later, just kind of in a roundabout way. But thank you again. So with that, we'll move on to consent agenda. Item 2, which is consideration of approval of the minutes for the August 1st meeting, which was 2 meetings ago. We do a roll call on acceptance of that.
We just need a motion and a second.
Yeah. One motion,
I'll motion.
second.
Go ahead, second.
Commissioner Schott.
Yeah.
And then a roll call.
We just need a motion and a second.
Yeah,
I
Commissioner.
motioned, and then my
Then a
second.
second from Commissioner Schott.
Ask a question
About what? Sorry, what question about what?
about the Heritage Park.
Well, so we have a section at the end of the meeting where we have
Okay.
communication discussion, so we can maybe talk about that.
Thank
So we'll move forward with the roll call of the meeting approval.
We don't need a roll call.
We don't
just
need a roll call on that.
motion and a
Great.
second. Yeah.
Motion, and that's it. Okay, great.
You need a motion, a second, call all in favor, we'll all say aye.
Yeah,
We'll move,
right.
Oh.
That's what I'm asking for, yeah.
just do it.
All in
You just-
favor?
I,
Aye.
me do it, you're
Yeah.
saying. I can't keep track of who does what anymore.
You're
It's
the chair.
different every time.
You're the chair.
Yeah, but not, I can't do it all the time. Only certain times. You know what I'm saying? All right, now you're getting me all flustered. All right, we'll move on to item 3 on our regular agenda. Appointment to the Yolo County Commission on Aging and Adult Services. Aaron Rivas not present.
Aaron looks very different than last time. I saw him.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better. All right, good evening, Commissioners, Chair Jans. My name is Kate Smith. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation, new to the City of West Sac starting in August, and filling in for Erin Rivas tonight because she is out ill. In your packet, you should have received a staff report that described the Yolo County Board of Supervisors. And in 2004, they had adopted a resolution that established our Yolo County Commission on Aging and Adult Services. The goal was to bring an interdisciplinary approach to streamline recommendations, eliminate duplicative efforts, and address the needs of Yolo County's aging population and people with disabilities. The Yolo County Commission on Aging and Adult Services is comprised of 15 members, and one of the members is required to represent the City of West Sacramento. Since the Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Commission represents the interests of both our aging population and people with disabilities, it has been asked of this commission to provide one representative that will serve on behalf of the City of West Sacramento. The term of this appointment is 2 years, and without a limit on how many terms the representative serves. Meetings are held in the morning of every first Wednesday of the month, and the location is in Davis. Again, you will find in your packet, there's a staff report that provides additional information for your review. And our ask tonight is that that I ask all of you to nominate someone to represent our city on this commission.
Oh, so Mr. Chair, if you don't mind. This is a great appointment. This is a good committee. I've served on county commissions. I would highly encourage, if you're interested in aging issues, to volunteer to do this. Rosie, I know we've talked in the past about this is something that you care about, and I know that you've been a real community leader in some of these areas. So I'd like to ask that you think about raising your hand and potentially, if you have time, potentially doing this. I think it would be just a fantastic rep for us. Well, I don't want to put her in that much of a position, but I want to say that I think that Rosie would be a great person to represent us.
I believe the first meeting is in January, so we are looking to appoint someone by then. I'm not sure, Chair Jans, if I know we do not have all members here tonight. We were looking to get someone to be able to attend starting in January. First Wednesday of each month. I believe 9 a.m. in Davis. I think the address is actually in the staff report. It is...
It's listed under meetings.
Oh, her.
Pardon me. The first Wednesday of every month, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we do need a nomination and a majority vote.
Who would you like to nominate?
Then, Rosie, I'd like to nominate you to represent us on the Yolo County Aging Commission.
Okay.
We'll call a vote. All in favor of Rosie as serving as the member? Aye.
And second?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Congrats, Rosie.
Good job.
we'll see if I can get across the causeway that early.
I do have a quick question about the, not necessarily the commission, but the appointment timeframe for this commission. Now, I've said this before, but I believed it to be 2 years at one point, and it's now shifted, I think, a couple of years ago to a 1-year appointment for this commission here. In fact, I meant to bring evidence. I received a card I was going through, a recognition from the city that was from, I think, the 2021 to 2023. Or, I'm sorry, back that up 2 years, 2020 to 2022. And
My
so,
understanding, it's 2 years. I spoke to Erin about it a few
For this
weeks ago.
commission?
She said it's 2 years.
okay, but we've been applying every year for the last couple of years. It's been an annual, yes, it's been an annual application. And this is the response I keep getting because I've applied 2 years in a row. So if that's correct, that there's a 2-year appointment to this Parks Commission, I just want to make sure that that aligns with the appointment to the Aging Commission. So we have confirmation now that these appointments, this chair here is a 2-year term. Is that correct?
That's the understanding I have from communications with the business manager. She told me it was 2 years.
We can confirm that. Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea since this Aging Commission appointment is 2 years as well.
Right.
But I believe, my memory is not the greatest, but I do believe I applied in 2021 and 2022. I had to do it 2 years in a row.
Can I just say, was that because of the redistricting?
Of redistricting?
Yeah, because we didn't have districts before. And I recall that may have been why we were supposed to reapply. Because then that's what my conversation with the mayor, I recall, was that they were trying to be inclusive of having folks like from different parts of West Sacramento having to do with the district. So I think that may be factor into it. I'm just speaking, again, my memory is not stellar, but that's what I do recall from 2022.
We'll look into it and make sure that all commissioners are aware as well as the public.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. There's been some confusion in other meetings as well. And especially with this appointment, I think that if, for example, our appointee has expired from this commission while they're still on the active aging commission, I could see that being a problem. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Thank you.
You have a question?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
as I recall, I'm going to muddy the waters. It's not my intent. I think the commissioner term is 2 years, but the chairperson term is a year. Is that
That's well,
accurate?
the second part of that is accurate. The chair commission, we vote every year for the chair positions, but the application for this commission over the last few years has occurred annually.
Okay.
And then we even had, I think, a shortage this year where we had to reapply again. But there was some confusion because I know we've talked about it earlier this year about the appointment timeframes back in one of our previous meetings. So I think that would serve well to have some clarification on this commission as it overlaps with the Aging Commission.
Yeah, we will do that.
Thank you. All right, moving on to consent agenda, or regular agenda item number 4, which is the consideration of endorsement of proposed updates to the City of West Sacramento Ball Field User Manual and Athletic Roundtable Agreement by our very own Paul Reyes.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners and Chair Jans. Paul Reyes, Recreation Manager. The objective of this report is to seek the Parks, Recreation, and Intergenerational Services Commission endorsement of proposed updates to the City of West Sacramento Ball Field User Manual and Athletic Agreement. The Athletic Roundtable Committee was formed as a mechanism for ensuring that the West Sacramento Parks and Recreation Department can provide quality facilities, programs to its constituents. The committee is comprised of local youth athletic presidents and directors serving primarily residents of West Sacramento, with representation currently from the West Sacramento Little League, West Sacramento Girls Softball, West Sacramento Soccer, and the West Sacramento Dolphin Swim Team. The committee meets every year to discuss current policies, submit field allocation applications, collect updated insurance information, review the ball field user manual, and discuss how youth organizations can work together to provide the best programs, fields, and facilities in a fun and safe environment. The ball field user manual facilitates a fair and equitable field allocation process for all eligible youth sports leagues and other field users. The manual establishes procedures for allocations and permitted use of athletic fields and provides general information and guidelines to assist the Athletic Roundtable committee members and other field users. Upon reviewing the ball field user manual and attending the Athletic Roundtable, league presidents, directors are asked to sign the Athletic Roundtable agreement, committing to abide by the terms of the Athletic Roundtable policy. Some situations in the past associated with ball field use at various park facilities caused park staff to consider exploring and recommending additional guidelines to ensure safety for park users, volunteers, staff, and residents within our neighborhood. On November 9th, 2023, park staff met with the Athletic Roundtable committee members to receive input and suggestions for possible updates to the ball field user manual. As local youth organization leaders often change from year to year, staff wanted to develop a standard approach for collaboration, communication, and accountability for presidents, directors moving forward. By working together to update the manual, organizations will have a better understanding of field allocation process and policy, will be aware of what policy violations are, and the process of issuing fines will be fair and transparent. This will create a sense of accountability, ensure equity, and reinforce compliance amongst groups. During the November 9th collaboration, the committee discussed volunteer maintenance work, concessions, distribution of keys, special permit process, and accountability. The objective is to provide a comprehensive guideline for user groups while promoting compliance with policies, fostering an environment of accountability and equity in the utilization of park facilities. Also, having a clear understanding for participants and staff. The collaboration was very positive and productive, and this concludes my presentation. I brought staff here in case you have some questions. We can go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions, but I'll open up to the rest of the commission if anyone has questions, or I can begin. I usually like to open it up to you, everyone else first. Okay, Commissioner Schatzel, go ahead.
How's that? Okay. Is that better? There. Okay. Like I said earlier, Paul, you and I have talked about these issues for 15 years. So I'm glad to see that the roundtable is still going, and I'm glad to see that we're still meeting on a regular basis and that it includes swimming, because the pool is just like a park and a field in many respects. So I'm glad they're included. I do want to say the grass at Summerfield Park looks better than it has ever looked. So I don't know what we're doing out there, but it looked a whole lot better. And we haven't got a whole lot of rain. So having coached soccer out there for many years, I'm kind of jealous now that it looks better than we were out there. But having said all of that, I just have a number of, what's the process now? So we make comments and ask questions. Does it go back to the committee and then come back to us? What's the process?
I think this portion right here is that we've already met with the Athletic Roundtable Committee, and we're just actually added more stuff into the ball field, the user manual. So I think just getting some feedback from you, maybe there's some unclear things that I can identify or explain a little bit better. But we had a very good, productive meeting, Chris and staff, with the athletic table.
And they were all there? Softball, baseball, soccer, swimming were all there? Cool.
Yes.
Okay. First thing, literally for 50 years, literally, we've been requiring $1 million insurance. Maybe that ought to go up. Something to consider, because $1 million just doesn't go, obviously, as far as it used to. So we might want to take a look at that. In the agreement, it says that if a sports group wants to make improvements or has a request, they have to submit it in writing 30 days in advance. I'd like something, it's kind of a one-way street. I'd like some wording in there that says, and the city will respond within X period of time. Because when we get to our boards of directors, as soon as we turn in a letter, the clock starts ticking on our own board of directors. Well, have you heard? Have you heard? What did the city say? What's going on? So if we can have some numbers, and you guys can pick the numbers, 48 hours, 2 weeks, whatever you want, that it will get back to us so we can tell our own people. So it's a two-way street and it's more communication. I understand that you're giving the keys to the presidents. When somebody rents the field, does that mean staff will open and close? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a given, but just to make sure.
You want to come up here and answer that?
I'll bounce around, you guys. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, that's the case.
Okay, all right. So there's no more Organization A calls Organization B. Can you open the door for me? We don't do that anymore?
Yeah, there's not supposed to.
All right, okay. I think it would be good to have some wording that clarifies if an organization makes a donation to a field, that donation belongs to the city. My Rotary Club, Centennial Rotary Club, not the noon Rotary Club, the morning Rotary Club, Centennial Club, we built 2 shade structures over the T-ball field a few years ago. And when the city rebuilt the field, they destroyed the shade structures. But we knew that was going to happen because when we built them, we knew it belonged to the city. I think the sports leagues need to understand they are public facilities. They are not private facilities. And when they make a donation to the field, they're not donating to their league or the city. Thank you. They're donating to the community in general. And I think that needs to be clear. So these are public parks. They're not Disneyland, where Disneyland can come in and shut the doors if they want. These facilities are to be made available. And I notice in here, there's a time when, for maintenance, the fields are locked. Fantastic, right? For maintenance, and let them recover. Great. But the fields should not be locked, in my view, outside of that deadline. They're public parks, and the public should be able to access those facilities. And I don't see, well, that's in the wording, actually. It says you have deadlines, we're going to be closed here to here. But if you go outside of that, in some of our parks, they're locked and you can't get in, and should be made available to the public. Oh, the $18 per player fee. I completely do not support that. And I have argued this in other agencies. And the answer I've always gotten is, well, it's for maintenance. So then when you ask for the definition of maintenance, well, we have to mow. Well, of course you have to mow. The city has to mow, water, aerate, fertilize, trim the trees up 6 feet, which is ADA law. You have to clean the restrooms. You have to dump the garbage cans, or don't build the park. That's just basic. What we do in our city, which I really like, is we paint the line, the baseline. The city staff paints the baselines on the soccer lines. Terrific. That saves so much time. But I'm wondering, if a sports league doesn't need the lines painted as often, can that fee be negotiated to have the money go somewhere else that maybe is needed on the field? And it also, just the fact that, see, I consider it a tax. We call it a fee, but it's a tax. And it raises the fee to all of our kids. And then we're asked in the leagues, but you let kids in the program for free, right? They don't suffer from not being able to pay for your program. No, we let them in, but our fees go up to everybody else to cover them. We add the $18, so now the fee goes up to everybody else. Hot dog fight fees go up. We have to get more sponsor money to get to the $18. So I just don't like that idea at all. But here we are. So my main point, I guess, is if that can be discussed, what to do with that money to help the league, that would be a good thing to put it in the field. But the bigger issue, I think I've hit it all, I think. But the bigger issue is the sports leagues need to know and have complete confidence that a policy for this sport is the same policy for that sport. And we don't make different arrangements. I think the sports leagues in town have matured enough where we have our funding, we have our board, we have our rules. There was a time when we had 2 little leagues, remember? And the swimming program was just getting started, and everybody just wanted to, let's help these guys get off the ground. We got a business in town, let's help our business flourish. But now we've all matured to the point where policy is a policy. We need to follow the policy, and our league needs to trust that we have the same policies that are being followed by the other league. At the same time, because we've had the experience, staff can't be everywhere all the time. So notice we have a fee for infractions and stuff like that. If the city finds itself working with people you can't trust, don't work with them. You know, if there's somebody on a board that you just can't work with this person, go to their president, and it may be their president, say, you got to give me somebody else to work with. You shouldn't have to worry, okay, here's the deal. Do I have to go out there on Sunday afternoon to make sure they're following the agreement? You shouldn't even have to worry about that. There should be trust that they're doing it right, and we trust that it's consistent throughout all of the leagues. That's really what the sports are looking for, is consistency and the rules over here. If we're going to rent Memorial Park to Little League for the TOC because it's a tournament, those are the rules. We got to rent it to them for a tournament. Same thing for soccer. Same thing for swimming if they do a regional meet. You know what I mean? That's really what the sports leagues are looking for, consistency. And we're all at the point now, rambling, but we're all at the point now where we all know our policies, we all know the procedures. We should be able to follow them and move along easily. So, thanks. Good.
Commissioner Hargrove?
Thank you very much. I can't. Thanks very much for the report. This does need updating. I do have some questions on some things that I think might be included here and some things that aren't included here. And for full disclosure, I have put on several sporting events, including professional sporting events in the city. Some of the questions, Paul, you can refer me to if it's other areas of policy that dictate them. And so we do have, there are softball and soccer aren't the only sports in the world. There are other sports, and there's some fun, weird ones. One of the sports that I particularly love is cycling. And we did a cyclocross race, which was a city-sponsored event for many, many years in town. Is the park that we use for the cyclocross event, is that included as a play field here, or is that a completely separate special event that we would need? And I asked because we ran into some issues this previous year.
I think it's completely different.
Okay, so that doesn't get included as a sports field under this policy.
Under this policy.
So with that, though, I would ask that the city, it did change some policy recently where the cost of renting the park that we use for cyclocross was zippled, if that's a word. It became so expensive this last year that we could not hold the event. It went from a city-sponsored event to charging us for every single area of the park, which was multiple areas, to a point where the folks who put on that race couldn't afford to do it because we would have had to have charged $200 per person. So that's something that we might want to follow up on, but I just want to make sure it wasn't part of this program.
No, I think that more towards the special permit.
Okay. And then under this, under eligible programs, it does say West Sacramento nonprofit group events. So again, I am a West Sacramento nonprofit group, Northern California Cyclocross, but we're a West Sacramento nonprofit because I happen to live here. Is there a definition somewhere that includes what nonprofits are? And if there aren't, maybe you should just think about that. Because again, I think I'm a West Sacramento nonprofit, but really I'm probably not, because we have sponsored races in other places too. So you just might want to look at that. I don't love the fine idea, fining sports clubs $50 for violations of this. And again, I'll go back to my own experience. As you know, Paul, I DJ'd and did the music for swim meets for many, many years. Swim meets are now part of this. I am sure if somebody really wanted to complain about swimming and the sound levels on that, it would have been a violation of this policy somehow. But I don't know how. So if somebody did say, and I also did the sound for Little League recently for their tournament, and we can get to that in a second. I know that not everyone loves that TOC happens there. So how under this policy, if a complaint is made, do you determine whether or not there has actually been a violation, that it's fairly looked at, and then do we really want to fine sports organizations funding that is supposed to go to running the organizations for this? We don't need an answer right now, but I mean, I think that is something that I have concern with. And I don't know if there's a way around that, but it doesn't feel right to me that there isn't a process. If we are going to fine people money, that there isn't some sort of due process, and it's clear how that happens. And look, we know a small town, every event gets complaints. Does just getting a complaint trigger you for the potential for being fined? I don't know. So that's something I think you should think about. I will disagree with my friend Don a little bit on, I do think that there's more of an impact on fields than just normal mowing and mulching and all that when you have sports being played. So I don't know if $18 per head is the right thing or not, but and believe me, I know the argument between a fee and a tax issue is something that's, you know, I work on during the day. But I mean, so I'm not completely opposed to the city figuring out how to, you know, for instance, soccer. Soccer tears the fields up, and it's soccer. It just does it. But it does take extra care and maintenance for the city to come in and fix, especially in front of the goals. You know, softball, not so much because it's all a dirt field. Cyclocross, absolutely, it, you know, has an impact on it and does have an impact on the city. So I don't know if $18 is the right thing or not, but I'm not opposed to the concept of having an additional fee. And again, full disclosure, I negotiated the swimming team moving to the new facility. Gosh, 15 years ago now.
2009.
10. Okay, so
Summer
it was a while
2009.
ago. Okay, so I negotiated that with Paul, and I think one of the things that did allow to make that work, the city wanted to make it work, but I do think one of the things that allowed it to work and showed good faith on behalf of the Dolphins and the swim team was understanding that if you had 100 kids, you had a little bit less impact than if you had 200 kids. We did set a cap, but we also understood that the swim team being there had an impact on the pool, and there was a per swimmer fee to the city at that time, which is something that, again, there's precedent for it, and I'm not completely opposed to it. But I mean, Don knows what he's talking about, so that's why I say I don't completely disagree with him on that. And then lastly, I don't know if it's in here or not, but I know we're talking about keys and having things locked. I recently was contacted by somebody in my neighborhood, so I'm from Westmore Oaks, who lives near the baseball park, who had concern that there is not access to residents to some of the fields there in the non-playing portion of the years. Or of the year. Don said, you know, these are public parks, and when they are being used and when they're being meticulously maintained by Little League, which they are, I do think they should be locked. But as Don said, these are public parks, and when it's out of season, I do think that the residents should have access to all these play fields within reason. So again, I was contacted. We went and walked around the fields. I grew up in this neighborhood. I am one of the reasons why those fences get locked. I know that. We used to play football in the baseball diamond when it rained because it was super muddy and awesome to do. So I get there's a concern, but I also, again, I don't know if it's this policy or if it's an adjunct policy, but thinking through balancing public access to ball fields in times where they don't need to be locked away because it's out of season. So that's, I think, everything I have. I think these updates are good and they're needed, but just thinking through some of the issues. I hope that's good, helpful feedback.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm not really sure if I should be asking you or not, but since Dawn said something about the park looking so nice, I don't even know if this is in the purveyance of this discussion, but I'm wondering about how harmful or not harmful the pesticides are that you might be using in the fertilizer and stuff, because you've got all these kids playing on the very field, and I have seen them out there spraying them.
Is that something we want to answer now, or just kind of defer that and Jason could respond on an email or offline?
If I may,
Yeah.
I'd like to keep the questions pertaining specifically to the ball field
Okay.
thing that we had, the agenda item we have in front of us, and then maybe offline we can send an email to Jason or to our director and maybe get that question answered. Is that okay?
That's fine. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I don't really know if it belongs in there or not.
Okay, yeah, no problem, no problem. Do you have a question regarding the agenda?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. You?
My question was regarding the fee. Obviously, this was not done like in a vacuum. You had a roundtable. The stakeholders, the different sports you mentioned were there. It jumped $10. So, do you mind kind of giving us some like background about?
And you're referring to the players' fees, or referring to
$18 players fee? Yeah.
Okay, well that's kind of a different policy back in the book of fees.
The Book of Fees is actually a citywide approval process, and so our department will be looking this next year to evaluate those. The $18 per head has been in play for how long now?
Players fee since 2010, 12,
Yeah.
14, somewhere in that range, and it just recently got moved up.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm on my phone, not like the paper copy in front of me. The fee I'm referring to is one that was $8 in 2016. Now it's 18. Is that not the player's fee?
That is the players fee.
So you said 2012 is when it was.
Somewhere in that range. I know you were here, man.
Right.
I think it's 12, 14, somewhere in that range.
So that's when
I'd have to go back when we started the initial
Right.
per player fee, which I believe was like $4 or $8 or something like that.
Yeah. So my question was more not so much like why it's there. It's the why it went up by $10. For instance, like cost adjustment.
Right. I think part of that is inflation, but it's also in one of the staff reports as needed that we can move up with the inflation and costs.
All right. So was there any what was the response of the different clubs? Did they have any input on that? Or is that completely a staff-based decision?
That's a staff base.
Okay.
To add, though, that as Paul mentioned at the beginning, all of the clubs have seen this and were in support of all of the updates.
Yeah, that was what I was referring to, is that if they had any feedback regarding it. I do hear what Dawn is saying for sure about keeping costs low, but I also agree with what Matthew is saying, because these things don't happen for free. But I know that the clubs do a lot to help make sure that there's inclusivity with different socioeconomic backgrounds of different players. But yeah, so that just helps give context. Like for me, I've been on the commission for a while now, since 2016, I think, and I didn't know how that was adjusted. So that's just some more background for me. Thank you.
So I want to make a real quick point. I know I said a lot, but I assume that the clubs are in favor of this policy because the clubs are working with the city and they want to use the parks and they want to have a good relationship. I get that. But the purpose of this commission is to represent the entire city and the people of the city and ask questions. So I do think that there's potentially some concern that we might have representing the more general people of the city, like access to fields, that I'm sure has been signed off on by the club. So I just want to make that small nuance of a point here, that is what I see as the purpose of the commission, is to ask from somebody who doesn't have any kids in any of these clubs. And I love all the clubs. I've been involved in most of them. But for me as a resident, I want to go use the park that's near me, and that's Memorial Park. So just a nuanced clarification.
And I just want to say, I'm glad that came up before I joined the commission. We tried having a movie night in Memorial Park back in 2015 or something, and we were told that wasn't allowed because it was in the spring. So I wasn't aware that that was like an issue, being like having smaller children who were not participating in any kind of sports at that time. So yeah, I think that just some more transparency around that, but also like you just mentioned, understanding that there's different kinds of, the parks aren't just for sports, right? Of course, but yeah, that's certainly come up for me as like a person in this city, is that, oh, why can't I just go to this park and do it? Like once I understood that there was a partnership between Little League and the park system, it was obviously clear. Initially, I think I was a little rebuffed by it and a little irritated, if anything. But so just some greater transparency for residents about why things are the way they are. But also, of course, balancing it with what they might need as well, they being the non-sports playing population.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions, and then I have some comments for the city as well as my fellow commissioners. Under the special event permit, I saw that, and I don't know if it's just a formality, but it says alcohol, you have to determine whether alcohol will be served or sold. And considering that this is under a ball field agreement for softball, baseball, soccer, et cetera, I'm just curious what, again, it may be just a formality for the special event process, but is there was there some sort of envisioned plan to have an event that would serve alcohol on the ball field?
I think it's generalized as part of
Okay.
the application for an overall different types
We
of
sold alcohol.
permits for certain
Okay.
activities, events, bike race, whatever they
But that
may
was a
be.
separate special event, yes?
Right,
We've determined that, yes, but
yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is could the optics of having alcohol on some of these organized sports league fields and uses, which is what this document is pertained to, correct?
Mhm.
There might want to be some thought into whether or not that would be permitted at all versus part of the special event permit, or being specific about the fact that if you're holding a special event on this ball field, then I don't know, maybe special considerations need to be made. Just a thought. Again, I'm not making
I
a suggestion, it's
understand.
just an idea. I think Commissioner Hargrove already brought this up, but I had the same thought about who's making a determination regarding the policy violations. As you know, I've spent a lot of my years well involved with the West Sacramento Little League. And there were certain occasions in which complaints were filed against the West Sacramento Little League, or at least they were brought up to the city. And so I think stating that there's a minimum fine and a $50 violation, that there should be some sort of process in place to say, have a commission or a committee or a meeting of some sort to say, hey, this is what we were told, what happened, et cetera, so that the leagues people can't just pick up a phone. And I understand the intent behind it isn't to have that happen, but maybe some clarification there.
I think, Chris is the one who kind of goes out to the ball fields, but we just hired a full-time recreation coordinator as part of their duties. Will go out and be seen in visiting parks of all different types of events, from dances out in the park to ball fields to sound to whatever it may be. So wherever there's a special permit or special program, staff people will go out there randomly to check things. So that's the first process. Other complaints that come in, we'll validate that by sending staff out there to check on that. So we have more than just Chris doing it now.
Okay.
And then part of what the athletic committee decided was that a written warning of the concern or the problem, followed by, if it happens again, then there is a $50 fine is what they decided.
Okay, so this is written as a linear kind of step process. Okay,
Right.
That's not clear in the document. So maybe that could be added to make a little more clarification, that written warning is step 1 of 3. I wanted to maybe take a little more of a hardline approach to how the city treats its ball fields, that may differ from the commission and maybe some residents of West Sacramento. And respectively, of course, and I challenge it, or welcome any debate over it, but I think that some parks are 100% absolutely used only for sports. And I think that's okay. I think that if you take, for example, the investment made in Bright Park, or the potential investments made in Bright Park, I remember the last master plan we saw, there was a question over whether or not we would have artificial turf installed on those fields. Is that correct? Yes? So if we were to do that, that's quite an expensive endeavor. That allows year-round play, it allows a lot of other things, but that's also an extremely expensive investment to be made. I think in that Bright Park master plan, I brought up the idea of security surrounding those fields. So let me just bring up a hypothetical extreme example. But let's say that the city makes the investment into multiple, I think there was at least 1 or 2 fields that were being looked at for artificial turf. And then you have residents who decide they want to do motocross on our artificial turf because it's a public park. We cannot allow that. We cannot allow that as a city for parks to be misused and essentially potentially destroyed. $18 per player is a minimal investment into the amount of time and labor that goes into maintaining these fields. And that's, I mean, I understand there's some clarification around what it is, but I would personally witnessed staff members coming out on weekends, having to earn overtime to make adjustments to ball fields to get them ready for tournaments, things like this. And then to allow those fields to then be open when they're not being used for spring baseball, and then dirt bikes and RC cars and dogs running around on the field, which is the main concern at Memorial. Dogs running around the field, digging up items, digging holes in the infield that has been a contractor has come out and leveled those infields at a very high price to make those as safe as possible for the players, to allow them to be open under the auspice that it's a public park, that anyone should be able to access it. I just don't agree with it. There are parks that are open. In fact, at Memorial Park, there are 2 baseball fields that are available to play baseball on, that are open and available. And there are 2 that are closed. And then at Alice Norman near Bright Park, there are multiple baseball fields and softball fields that are wide open. So if the use is to play baseball at the fields, there are other options at that location and other locations. And if we hear from the soccer clubs pretty regularly, and I hear them each time about the need for more fields and the need for access to safe fields and the need for lit fields and all of this financial investment that goes into these ball fields so that our kids can have a good time. And one of the comments, I hope I'm not overreaching here, was about the safety and the ability, or the effect that it has on youth growing up in their dreams of being professionals. We have to do something as a city, I think, to maintain those fields at a high level. And if that means reducing access to those fields, then I'm 100% in support of it. Because we have a lot of parks, and we, I think, pride ourselves on having a lot of parks and maintaining our parks. And the more parks we create through grants, funding, and the Bright Park is a huge undertaking, Heritage Oaks. All these are huge undertakings that require maintenance from the city. And if we fail to maintain any of these parks, they're not going to be usable. And it's going to be more comments from the public about the terrible conditions at Bright Park Playfield and about how somebody took a 4-wheel drive truck and drove it around and did a bunch of circles on the artificial turf, and now that's out of commission for the next 6 months, and we have nowhere to play. So I take a little bit more of a hardline stance in that I would support the city in restricting access to sport-specific fields, and that I would fully support any sort of documentation or agreement with organized sports leagues that have priority, or however it's worked out with the city, to make their own investments into that field. I think we heard from the soccer club, they raised $11,000, which is fantastic. Fantastic. That means that they have a ton of support. Well, that $11,000 can go back into a collaborative approach with the city to add new things to those fields, to add better equipment, work collaboratively with the city. I would hate for that $11,000 to be wasted in one weekend over vandalism or misuse of that field. So that's why I kind of take a little bit more of a hardline approach. I respectfully disagree with the fact that every park should remain open. If it's a specific sport activity field, I believe 100% that the city should restrict access to those. Regarding the $18 player fee, I think I was in support of that. I understand that the city does do a lot of work at those fields. I've seen it and witnessed it. And if there's any concern over the ability for people to play that, I know that the Little League would include that part, I believe, in their registration fees, but the idea was to get the registration as low as completely possible. So it's a nonprofit. Part of it was the city fee, and then there was insurance involved and uniforms, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, as it was pointed out earlier, if there was a financial need through fundraising and permitted special events, the Little League or other organized sports leagues will be able to offset costs for people in need so that everyone has access to that sport. So I support the $18 player fee. especially if the other sports leagues are in support of that. And I would just anticipate that fee going up if prices continue to rise. And it's needed by the city to offset their own labor costs and overtime that they do to put work into those fields. I believe that was everything that I had. Oh, the other thing was the donations made to the city. I think Commissioner Satzel made a comment about developing things on the field. That one I think is a little gray for me, because I agree with you that if you're going to invest, make an investment into raising enough money to put, I don't know, let's just dream big and say that the soccer clubs raise enough money to install lighting at their soccer fields, right? Some hundred and thousands of dollars. Do they own that lighting? I would say no. I mean, it has to be at one point agreed with the city to be maintained, but there is a little bit of a gray area there, and it might be worth defining to some way, or at least bringing up with the sports clubs, that if they install shaded structures, or they install scorekeeping booths, or they install something, and it's been written, it's gone through your, the written work request. It's gone through that process, and the city has approved it, right? They've approved, yes, we've seen your designs, yes, you're building this, et cetera, et cetera. Well, who owns that? Who does that belong to? I think is a valid question. And I think it would be fair that the city would then take ownership, but do they maintain it? Right? I mean, there's a bit of a gray area there. So that might be worth at least discussing with those groups, especially if they're raising money as they are. And I know the Little League raises a lot of money. I know softball does. Soccer, we heard from them earlier, they're raising a lot of money. Those are the types of things that I know, at least from an organized sports league representative, that those are the things we look into, is how it's going to be invested. So, yeah, any comments on my comments?
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Not just yours, but I think I always want to get out what I have to say, and I don't always amplify it the way I should. I feel we've already paid taxpayers dollars to maintain the field on a normal way, on a normal basis. Tournaments are not normal. Swim league championships are not normal. That's extra. So to me, that's part of the rental fee. And just thinking process-wise, yeah, you're going to bring in, like we did, 32 8U softball teams. That's a lot of garbage. That's a lot of restroom cleaning. That wouldn't happen if we didn't do the tournament. See, we've paid for the basics already, I think, in taxes. That stuff is extra. And that is not the $18, and that should be part of the rental fee, all agreed to beforehand. We have an interesting dynamic at Alice Norman with softball. There is a private sector company that comes in there on the weekend. They rent the field. They're all great. But when our taxpayers leave on Friday and they come back on Monday, the fields are in worse shape because that other group is using them. And it's not vandalism. It's not malicious. It's just wear and tear. But our kids and families suffer because of the use, and we can't lock the field. See what I mean? At the same time, I completely understand, but there is a process for this. If we put so much money into the Little League fields, that I was out there twice this week, the guys mowing the lawn, they're terrific. There are times, like TOC time and All-Star times, lock the field. But with approval, we have a process for this. It's called come to the commission for approval, go to the city council for approval. To follow your point, if there are some fields, this is happening to an associate of mine in Dixon. They just built a brand new synthetic soccer field and fenced it off, and nobody can get in. There's a public city-funded field. Kids are jumping the fence, and the cops arrest them. But it's a public park, okay? But they're trying to protect the synthetic turf from the BMX guys or that's real. You're absolutely right. But so there is a process within the governance of the city that if we really want to be that exclusive about a certain area, we can work it through that process for all the reasons that you point out. We don't like showing up on Monday and the holes in the home plate are deeper and the holes at the pitcher's mound are deeper because people came in from Modesto and used the field. But we can't lock those fields. It's just softball has to live with that, you know. So anyway, there's ways to work this within the process and still get, you know, what we need for everybody. And I guess that was my, you know, I don't know that the sports leagues support the $18. You know what they do? They go, yeah, well, what else are we going to do? We have no choice.
I haven't heard from them.
We've been doing it since 2004, like you said. So, you know, and maybe 18 is just a perfect number. I mean, I'm okay with that. But there is extra stuff as compared to our kids want to play soccer Monday through Friday and Saturday. We've already paid for that. Now, if we want to bring in 50 teams on a weekend, that's a different to me.
No, I understand. I think just to clarify, my comment was specific to sport use fields, ball field, just to be clear. So if those public parks are specifically designed for a sport, a pickleball field, a tennis court, a basketball court, soccer field, a pool, exactly, then they should be restricted to those uses. And if that has to be secured, then
there's a process to make that happen.
You invited debate, so let me gently push back.
Go ahead.
And I do agree with most of what you say. But we don't have enough parks to be exclusive. This open space we have, especially in the older neighborhoods, is all the open space. We don't have enough parks. This Parks and Rec did a survey on this a few years ago, and we are underparked by 50%, 60%. So a lot of the open space in the parks that we have in our neighborhoods have to serve dual purpose. And I get the sports fields are very easy to put a fence around and lock them off. But in a neighborhood like mine, where we use the parks where I grew up in Westmore Oaks, the parks we used to use were the school facilities. So growing up, the only parks that I had access to was Westmore Oaks and what we then called River City, and they were open and they were our park. Those have both been completely closed off, though. Not because they're ball fields, but it's the same effect. So for a while, we had 0 parks on the Westmore Oaks side in there, and I had nowhere to take my kids to go play, though there was a beautiful fenced-off school field right there. So I couldn't walk to a park to have my kids play. I couldn't walk to a park to let my dog run around. So you know, when I lived in Southport, there's a lot more parks per capita in Southport than there are in the older neighborhoods. So that's something we need to consider too. And the reason there's more parks out here to address out there is because there's open land, it's greenfield development, and there's developer fees now that go into those parks there. In some of the other older neighborhoods, we weren't as enlightened in the 50s and 60s when we were initially building neighborhoods. So you have these dual purposes parks. Memorial Park growing up for me, again, that's on the other side of Park where I grew up, but Memorial Park was a multi-service park where we played everything from actual baseball in uniforms with coaches to football in the winter. But there is more than the city of West Sacramento spent more than $2.5 million to upgrade that park, and that wasn't $2.5 million that came from families that have kids who play baseball. Look, my mom's name is up on the wall. She was the official score. I am a West Sac Little League family. We've been involved with that park since the mid-'70s and everything West Sac Little League does. I understand the sacrosanctity of that. But the point is right now in that neighborhood, it's one of the only open space. And by having those 2 big fields completely closed off all year round, it's more than half that park that is closed off to the people who live around that park. So what I mean, there's ways to get there, like Dawn says. I think with those synthetic fields, I think the synthetic fields, those are meant so you can have year-round soccer. And maybe a part of the policy is if you have a year-round sport and a year-round use of those fields, those aren't then general use fields. So that's one way you could do it. Baseball, same thing. You get longer and longer seasons now. And that's a piece of it. Softball fields, I don't know how we lock those off, but, so look, that's just all, I don't want dogs digging up the field either, and I don't want kids breaking their ankle. But we are underparked. I just think we should think it through on some of these things and not have policies where we say 100%, no way, no time can you access this, even though the sport that uses this is not using.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I guess to be absolutely specific, and I'll jump to you real quick. Those fields at which we want to protect, we have a handful of fields out there. I'm not saying every field, if it's a basketball court, needs to be locked up, that every softball field needs a fence around it. That's not what I'm saying. But I also feel it's fair that if there are certain organized sports leagues that want to make investments to a particular field, that it should be okay to protect certain fields from access or limit the access to those fields. That's what I'm trying to say. So if we have one field at Bright Park that's secured because of the substantial investment that went in it, so that it's in fair condition every time you want to hold a tournament, every time you want to play on there, any time of year, at night, during the day, you can at least understand that there'll be a reasonable level of playability on that field, that one field of the 5 or 6 that are around Bright Park. I think that's acceptable. That's what I'm trying to say. And in the case of Memorial Park, there's 2 fields of the 4 that are there that are secure. Softball, I realize doesn't have one, but I would support if they wanted to choose 1 or 2 of the 4 or 5 fields there that they wanted to keep closed for girls softball, so that they had a standardized level of playability year round. I think that's fair. That's what I'm trying to say. So I appreciate that. Go ahead, Commissioner Ahmad.
My comments, and I think Commissioner Hargrove covered a lot of what I would have said, so thank you. I'm going to speak about Bright. It was mentioned earlier that we're a commission that represents the interests of the greater population of West Sacramento, and I think it would be tone deaf of us to talk about policing any part of that park, given that community's history of policing. The gang injunction was mentioned in the public comments. And so I think that we'd have to be very sensitive to that community, because that park, as was mentioned, it means a lot to people. Like Memorial Park means a lot to people. Someone that's sitting right here, who grew up in that area. My kids have been playing in that park since 2000 and I'm gonna say 10. My now 15-year-old. I have never seen like an egregious like misuse of the fields. I think that community really loves its park. And so I have a lot of faith in people in that community to steward it and to take care of it if a big investment were to be made. So that's just my my kind of like trust in people. And there's but that community has a history. And I think it would be foolish of us to even move forward with an idea of like excluding a part of that park because of what's been, and like Dawn mentioned, if you put a fence up, kids will jump it. And that just creates more kind of like a space for people to be criminalized. And again, that is a very sensitive topic when discussing Brighton Broderick. So I think we need to be very cognizant of that if that were to even move forward as a discussion point for cutting off part of the park. With that being said, and also there was a few years ago, I think in the Mission in San Francisco, where they ignored the majority Latino population and the populations of color that were using the park facilities in San Francisco in favor of having like a scheduled park time. And the kids there that have grown up there for generations pushed back. So we have to be cognizant of the histories of our communities. So hopefully with Bright Park, as mentioned, we're going to be having some kind of like community feedback. And I think that if the community speaks to that, sure, it should be community-led, absolutely. But I don't think that that's something that we should, that for that specific community, I think we should not ignore that history. And yeah, I know for me, as someone, I am not involved like on sports boards, but I am involved in other aspects of it. And so I think that I appreciate the city is meeting with these kind of like groups, and I also would be, and obviously they've signed off on this fee and whatever else. I'm curious about, is this like on par with like regionally? Is this sort of like a standard thing? And are we kind of like in the same boat as Sacramento and Thomas and Davis and whoever else. Is that, like, how does that compare our policy to theirs?
Want to jump up here? That's within our policy.
Are you referring to the $18 per head?
I think $18 per head, but and just in general, I think I was asking. But yeah, if you can speak to that and then generally as well.
Okay.
Okay, so the one thing I can speak on that is, I do know at the time when we did look to raise the fees, we did do a benchmark. I can't necessarily recall all the numbers from all the different agencies, but I do know that we were kind of in the ballpark with other cities.
Okay, and then what about the issue of like exclusion? I think one more thing I wanted to mention was the use of school fields, because those are facilities that are locked up and that no one has access to overnight and are a lot more protected. But I know the city does like a 2x2 with the district, but I feel like the last time I tried to attend or something, it was canceled, or it's been canceled a couple of times. Has there been any kind of talk around that issue, like around having those fields be used, as was mentioned that there is a field usage shortage in our city?
I can say that we do have an operating agreement with Washington Unified. We do meet with them regularly, the 2x2, and then our Parks and Recreation Department also meet with them. We're exploring additional options, and when we actually kind of solidify what those will be, we'll make sure that the commission is aware. I think for tonight, if we can maybe, we've heard a lot of feedback, which has been great, but specific to the 2 documents that are in the packet, if we can hear any more feedback that will help us make edits for those 2 documents, that would be helpful.
I think we've heard from everyone's comments specific to the.
One more.
You want to make another comment
I'll go
specific
quick.
to the agenda item?
I'll go quick.
All right.
When the park master plan was written, it was originally, it was potentially naive, I guess, that school fields would be available to the public. Currently, Stonegate and Southport are locked. You cannot get in. That should not be happening.
Westmore Oaks and Old River City, too.
Oh yeah.
Gentlemen, these comments aren't specific to this
Yes,
agenda
they are.
item.
Yes, they are, because it came up in public comment, and it is the responsibility of staff to do this. And I'm suggesting that in the 2-2, following up on a commissioner, that, what you said, it is something that needs to be looked into. Because then Alice Norman Bright, for example, is a joint city school facility. They had the dirt, we had the money. So it does fall into this agreement and this conversation. So these are good. I appreciate the comments and conversation here. But to get to this point, what now? Like I asked in the beginning, what now? Are you asking us to approve a document with all of these comments on our mind? Or where do we go now? Does that help, Commissioner Jan? Get us back on track?
Okay. There's a recommended action in the agenda item in which we hear a presentation and consider endorsing the proposed updates to the manual and the agreement. That's where we go from here.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if I could jump in.
Yep.
We need a motion for the commission to support the endorsement for the changes to the athletic roundtable agreement and ball field user manual. We need a motion and a second.
Is this the final draft of the document?
We can take your comments.
We're asking for
Yeah.
endorsement and acknowledging that we've heard all of your feedback, and we'll be taking those into consideration to make additional edits.
Okay, so the endorsement would be with the edits and comments that we've made.
Correct.
Okay, then I'll motion to accept and approve it with the comment. Anybody seconding? None.
I can add if you wanted to table it to a further meeting, that is also an option.
I think we're going to have to because it's not going to carry, so.
So you can do a motion to table it to a further meeting.
I'll let another commissioner go ahead and do that.
I make a motion that the issue be tabled to a future meeting after the sports group meets and discusses the commission comments, and a final draft is brought back to this commission.
We want to clarify that we are an advisory commission, so this can move forward to wherever it needs to go with or without our endorsement. I do have enough, I think, concerns with some of the things we've discussed about tonight that I would love to see it worked on and come back. But I also understand the staff needs to move forward with the business of the city. So a decision needs to be made at that point. But I've expressed some concerns, and I know staff needs to do what it needs to do. I'm not there with some of the conversation we had. So
I think if I can add some of the concerns about the fees, that is a separate approval process. So that is part of the book of fees that will go to City Council. So we will not be able to make any of those edits to the manual. Again, taking your feedback into consideration, but that is a larger process. So the other feedback that was content specific on clarifying some of the items, that is what we would be able to edit at this point. The items in regards to what fields are locked, that's not in this manual. So that was feedback that was presented tonight, but that is a different topic. So those items in the manual are not called out as far as the topic on specific parks and which ones are locked versus unlocked.
May I add then, for this policy, whenever you have something like the fees or the locking issue, in parentheses to note where someone can find that information, that would just be a good reference for someone that's not in this commission in the public reading, and then they can find further information and contact. With that, I would motion to just table this next time.
We have a motion on the table. Would you like to second it?
Oh, sure, yes.
So you still motion to?
Yeah. that's
Okay,
fine.
so Commissioner
Sorry,
Schatz's
Don, I
motion is to
didn't
table.
realize.
Yeah, I appreciate the clarification from staff. That was good to break that out.
Thank you for the presentation and for the acceptance of the dialogue. We appreciate it. All right, so we'll move on to our general administrative function, which is a director's report, item 5A.
All right, good evening. Once again, I will read my prepared report, and then if you have questions at the end, please feel free to ask. So I am excited to announce that our first community engagement event for the Bright Park Master Plan Implementation Project is actually planning to be scheduled in January 2024. So we have not held any previous engagement events, and that is planned for January. We don't have a date, and when we do, we will make sure that that is publicly announced. The Southport Levee Trailhead construction project is well underway, and the ADA access ramps are complete, including the safety railings. The art installation should begin at the end of December or beginning of January. The Southport Levee Recreation Trail is also currently in design and is about 65% design completion. The West Acre Park is about 90% design completion. The shade structure installation project, which included the installation of 6 shade structures to various parks, that has now been completed as well. The Alice Norman play structure has been replaced, and that project is completed. However, we are waiting on a final inspection for that play structure. The Bees Lake Habitat Restoration and Public Access Project is at 90% design, with 100% plans expected in January. Project permit applications were submitted this last week. The Heritage Oaks Master Plan Implementation Project is still in environmental review. And the ropes course at Heritage Oaks Park is officially closed, and the city has taken possession of the property, including the permanent kiosk that was installed there by Clutterwald, also known as Treetop Sack. We are working to remove all of the climbing elements from the trees, and that should be completed by the end of next week. The 15th anniversary of the Rec Center is scheduled for January 12th, 6 to 9 p.m., and we will have a special event that night and make sure that the public receives information on that as well. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you for your report and welcome. I think this is my first commission meeting with you here, if not all of us. My question was about Heritage Oaks. I did notice that there's been some activity there taking the climbing structures down. My understanding from the public meetings around the park development was that the play structure part of it would stay, but it looks like that's been taken down as of today. So I wanted to get, and that broke my kid's heart. So I recall when I spoke with Sarah a few times that was something that the public had given feedback on, that would remain. But I'm just, that surprised me.
So the play structure should still be there, and it is there.
The
low ropes course that was part of Treetop Stack, that did have to come down because that was not under our purview. We did not install that, and the city was not going to take the liability on for the low ropes course that Treetop Stack had installed.
Okay. I think that's what I was saying, is that when we met with people, she had reassured parents that would remain because it was such a beloved thing. Is that something that could come back? I mean, if I wanted to, should I give direct feedback to Sarah for the park's design? Because it had been part of the feedback that was given at the multiple meetings there. So should I just contact them directly about it?
With the closure of Treetop Stack, it has created some opportunities for us. We do have to balance it with where we are in design, but we are taking into account that our footprint has changed. And so, yes, we are trying to work with the Melton Design Group to figure out how we can really capitalize on the space that we're now taking back within our control.
I just wanted to say that that's just hard. I mean, the Treetop Sack, the whole dynamic of Treetop, the fact that it's not there anymore is great.
I'm excited on the 15th anniversary of the rec center. It's crazy that it's been open for 15 years. My daughter works there, for full disclosure. But Paul, there was, when the rec center opened, a really great news live feed that was done that opened the rec center that was on the website for a long time, and it disappeared. When you talk to the media, I think it would be fun to have some of that media back of the opening of the rec center and some of the neat stuff that happened.
Yeah, we can look back and find some of those clips, but we're going to have another one coming out in April. Another video for of the rec center. Of all the updated.
That'd be great. I mean, it's very exciting that the rec center has been open that long. I know, for West Sacramento to have such a great facility that people love to go to and enjoy going to, and it has lived in harmony with some of the private gyms in town. In fact, a new yoga gym just opened up, even though that is being offered at the rec center too. I think shows some of the thoughtfulness that West Sac and Parks has done in terms of making sure that the private gyms can live in town in harmony with the public gym that's there. So great job on that, and I'm excited about the anniversary.
I just want to say thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
On to item 5B, which is Commissioner Communications. Are there any communications that any commissioners would like to share with the community and the Parks Department?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Schatz.
Centennial Rotary Club was very proud to have provided some volunteer help to the Safe Streets event at River City for Halloween, and the club is very happy to help out. They also contributed $600 to the Senior Center holiday dinner and served the meal and then ate the meal because we're all seniors. But that was a great event. Lucy and her staff did a great job. Brandy and her staff did a great job. So we're very happy to participate in those events at the. I also try, as lame as I am, to play pickleball at the rec center on Mondays and Fridays at 4 o'clock. And I went. I don't want to be a good pickleball player. I don't care. Chris is a good pickle. I'm not a good pickleball player. Oh, back to the Thanksgiving thing. I'm sorry. Sam is a heck of a guitar player. You know Sam Brinkhouse from staff? he's a good guitar player, and he was part of the entertainment for the seated. I thought Sam was going to go out there and, no, he played real guitar. He was really good. Anyway, back to the pickleball thing. And what I've learned in pickleball, because I went there just because we're going to put in pickleball courts at West Baker. We want to do that, but I don't know how to play that game. And the people there are really nice. They explain the rules, the tactics. But the more I've learned about pickleball, there is an issue, I think, that we as a commission need to learn about, and it has completely ambushed everybody. It's a noisy game. And there's been social media about pickleball courts that were built in San Diego next to houses, and the people in the houses incorrectly thought, but reasonably thought, well, pickleball's like tennis. Fuzzy ball, you hit it, goes a long way, and then you hit it back. Then they found out pickleball is not like that. Now they're upset. I just read an article out of Sarasota, Florida, the noise of pickleball. We talked to staff's talked to the architect. The industry is concerned about it too. It is a plastic paddle and a plastic ball on an outdoor concrete surface. And in San Diego, this starts at 8 a.m. and goes all day long on 4 courts. And it's something I think if the commission can go to the rec center Monday, Friday from 4 to 6, if you haven't already, and just sit there and just sort of get a feel for what goes on with pickleball, and then think about it within the context of how it fits into what we're trying to do. If you've got the time and you can do that, I think it would be time well spent, because we don't want to be like the folks in San Diego. I thought it was like tennis. We don't want to do that. Okay? Thank you. They're doing ready with what? I'm sorry? About 4. I used to be the president of that club, so I know there's about 4.
I'll just say I attended the Veterans Day Parade, and I wanted to say thank you to the city staff and the police department and the West Sacramento Fire Department for blocking off the lanes, making it safe. Yolo County District Attorney was there to announce everybody coming through. There was a lot of great floats that were going through in that area. All different leagues, the high schools were involved, the bands, things like that. So that was a lot of fun to see our community do that every year. And then also a reminder that crab feed fundraising is coming up season in next month, probably through March. So if you have a good organization that's doing a crab feed fundraiser, go out and have some fun in one of our facilities or something like that, because it's a great way to raise some money for some nonprofits in our community, churches, leagues, a lot of things like that. So yeah, thank you all. Everybody, if there's anything else, no, we can adjourn. Do you have another comment?
I just want to express my gratitude to the staff. I think we haven't been here since August, so I feel like things have been kind of compounded in my head. But I just wanted to, it's our last meeting of the calendar year, so I wanted to just express my gratitude to so many of you in this room that I think at so many points in my personally trying to do stuff with the city, staff are always very helpful and very kind and very accommodating and flexible. Recently with the rec center, the consent came up. Your staff there have been just very helpful in helping me navigate things with various kids and like changing schedules and whatnot. So I'm sure I've been very annoying as like a person that's like, as a consumer. But I see them being very, and a lot of them are like young people and teens. And so I commend that very much for dealing with me. I'm sure lots of many others. Yeah, so I just wanted to express my gratitude and thanks for doing what you all do. I think that's what I love about city services. It's something it makes things accessible for people and it's affordable, but it's also courteous. So I appreciate that and thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, well, if there's nothing else, we will go ahead and adjourn our meeting at 7:51.
Need a motion
We have
and
a
a
motion
second?
here.
So moved.
Yep, any second? Who's got it? Second, okay. All right, all in favor? Aye, all right, thank you, everyone, appreciate it.